Hey everyone, Nick Falato of the Big Blue Banter podcast here to break down the negatives about Elerson Smith's game. I recently released a video on his upside and what he offers from a pass rushing perspective. Please go check that out right here on this feed. This video will mostly be about his struggles defending the run, anchoring down, and using power in his pass rush plan. For context, Smith put on about 60 pounds since he was recruited to UNI, might even have been a little bit more. He's still growing into his body, into his frame, and learning the position of edge, so he can realistically get better with all of these issues I'm about to go over. But I want to be objective about what Smith can offer this Patrick Graham coach defense in year one. I also want to specify that this film is from 2019, and he did show a little bit more power while at the Senior Bowl. So without further ado, let's get into his tape. All right, so here we see North Dakota State in a very, very heavy personnel package right here. Look, you have a tight end right here. Elerson Smith is a 6 technique directly over that tight end, but you also have 2 tight end type of players behind the tight end and the offensive tackle. So it's pretty evident that they may be running the ball in that direction. Elerson Smith isn't exactly the guy to hold up at the point of attack. But before we get into the double team, I want you to watch how he engages this tight end right here. So he comes in low, and actually initially he wins that pad level battle, but then watch as his center of gravity just gets risen up by the strength of the tight end blocking him. And this is before this blocker right here engages Elerson Smith. Now watch, the base is all screwed up, center of gravity is risen, and he's not anchoring down at the point of attack even before this player can be engaged. And then once that player is engaged, you can see how he just gets washed down the line of scrimmage. We can run through that quickly again. Goes in low, gets the pad level risen, double team block, washes him down. Huge alley for the running back. This was not Elerson Smith's game back in 2019 to be able to hold up at the point of attack against double teams. Now, in this Patrick Graham defense, especially if you're playing on the interior, you definitely have to be able to hold up against double teams. These edge guys, not as much, but you have to be able to hold up against tackles, and you have to be able to hold up against tight ends. And Elerson Smith is going to struggle to do that early on as he adjusts to the strength of the National Football League. And again, we have him here. And this isn't the type of position that I feel like Patrick Graham is going to employ Elerson Smith early on in his career. He's in a 4-point stance right here. Looks like he is at a 5 technique over the outside shoulder of this tackle. Then you have 2 tight ends here. And I think he's more going to be a stand-up type of guy, the similar role that we saw Kyler Fackrell in, similar role that we saw Cam Brown, Carter Coughlin in down the stretch of the season. Probably more so the latter, too, just because I feel like he's going to be a pass-rushing specialist early on. But in certain third and long situations, which is not what is going on in this game, this is a 2nd and 7, you may see him with his hand in the dirt to set up slants and twists, the stunt game with Leonard Williams. But let's watch this play. Again, that's an extra offensive lineman there. He's in the tight end spot, but that is an extra offensive lineman. But watch, he engages again, wins that pad level battle, something that he struggles with because he's 6'6". But you can tell even before this tight end gets engaged in the block, that center of gravity is being risen. And once the tight end gets engaged, which he is right here, Elerson Smith stands no chance, and he gets plummeted to the ground. And that right there is just never a good look whatsoever. Now this play right here starts a little late. It's hard to kind of tell, but you can just see how the tackle comes off the ball and is just in complete control and is able to wash him down right there. He's chipped a little bit by the tight end, but Elerson Smith just doesn't have that type of posterior strength to anchor down against these stronger players, against these offensive tackles. It's something that he does struggle with. It's something that he's going to have to overcome. Now right here, we see him again. This is looks like a 4 technique over the offensive tackle against Iowa State, a Power 5 school. Let's see what happens. Again, he's in that 4-point stance. This isn't something I really feel like he's going to be doing, but when you're playing at the University of Northern Iowa, and you may not be the strongest for the NFL, but you may be a lot stronger than your contemporaries and your teammates on your team. So let's watch. He engages low, misses that punch a little bit, allows this tackle to get inside of his chest, and you can see how the tackle is exploding through hips right there, uncoiling those hips through the contact. And look at Elerson Smith, his center of gravity totally risen, does not have control here. Look, his butt is not sank down, his legs are just completely straight. It's not a great situation, and then the tackle ends up pushing that outside shoulder and then flipping his hips towards the inside to create a hole right there in that B gap. We will see that one more time. Engage, misses the punch, chest totally exposed, completely risen, turned away from the B gap, wide open hole for the running back. Here again, we see him down in that 4-point stance. Looks like he is a 5 technique over this tackle, and what North Dakota State is going to run is a pin pull concept, a power gap. They're going to pull this backside guard, and the tight end is going to pin Elerson Smith. So here's the tight end, and you can see how the tight end kind of controls the point of attack and washes Smith away from his responsibility. Gets that outside shoulder, holds him up. To Smith's credit, doesn't get driven back, but he gets eliminated from this play. Then we see the tackle slip to the second level to pick up the mic. We're going to have this guard pull, kick out the unblocked defender. But Smith just gets taken out of that play by a tight end, which is not something you want to see. He's not in good position. Shoulder is controlled. You can see that this tight end can have that outside arm on probably the small of his back. You can't tell because this is not the all-22 angle. And then he can just drive him like this, and he has control. Has one hand on his chest, other hand on his back, and Elerson Smith cannot separate, has no contact with this inside arm. The outside arm has no control. And the play doesn't necessarily go anywhere because the defense holds up well. But you want to see a stronger player right here. Good play by this guy to fill and just clog the hole, so there's no room for this running back to break away. But you want to see a stronger player right there. And he gets controlled and put to the ground by a tight end who's playing at North Dakota State. North Dakota State, it's a very good program, don't get me wrong, but it's a FCS program. It's not an FBS program. Now, we'll see here. We have him, now this is an offensive lineman here, but they bring in an extra offensive lineman in the tight end position, so this would technically be a 6 technique. You have Dylan Redunz right here. He's not going to be engaged with Redunz, who was a second-round pick in the NFL draft. But he goes in at this tackle in the tight end spot, tries to get his hands in there, center of gravity risen again, gets turned. This blocker shows good torque to control and then drive Elerson Smith off the line of scrimmage. Again, like where the hands are, but he can't separate. He's trying to. He's giving ground. You can tell right here. He tries to maybe use that strength like we saw earlier in the video I posted earlier this week where he gets his hands inside at the Senior Bowl and throws a pit tackle to the ground. You can tell he tries to unlock that here by jamming that outside foot hard into the ground, and he tries to move, but it's just not strong enough, and then this tackle is just overpowering him there and turns him away from the play. Alrighty, so that was against the run. There's a lot of negatives to kind of go over there, and again, like I said, for context, this guy put on a lot of weight. He's still growing into his frame. This was 2019. There's a lot of things that suggest that Elerson Smith can be better than what we have seen so far in this video. That is not an unreasonable take whatsoever, but it is something that he has struggled with in the past. It's a reason he was a day 3 pick, and maybe if he had a 2020 season, because remember these FCS schools did not end up playing, if he had a 2020 season, maybe there would be a lot more better tape and he would have been a day 2 selection. But because of that lack of strength, something that I definitely had concerns about in the pre-draft process with someone like Elerson Smith, who's an athletic freak. Like I said in the last video, he's one of, I think, 4 guys who was 250 pounds, yet had over a 38-inch vertical while testing, and he had a 41.5-inch. That's insane type of lower body explosiveness, but you need to see a bit more strength. Now here's him rushing the passer. So right here he's going up against Redunz, who has a nice set. He's slightly outside, not quite a 5 technique, just a little bit wide of that. Redunz sets, and you can see how Elerson Smith is lowering and trying to go for the bull rush. And Redunz just absorbs that contact, and you can see how the center of gravity, man, we brought it up plenty of times throughout this. It just gets risen, and he can't churn those legs. You can see how they try, It's an attempt to churn there, but they just get stopped. And credit to Elerson Smith for getting his hands up in the air to just alter that path of the ball a little bit from Trey Lance, but you can see the lack of power there. And I feel like if Elerson Smith is able to convert speed to power, this is such a steal in this draft. If he's able to use that exceptional speed, burst, lateral quickness, short area, closing ability, all of those things, if he's able to utilize that and build power off of it, he's going to really, really be a nuisance for opposing blockers. Now here we see him at this spot. Play starts a little late, and he gets snatched and trapped to the ground. So he engages this guy, tries to use power, lunges, but the tackle gets his hands inside just enough and then pulls his momentum forward, and he doesn't have that core strength or that balance or that control and confidence while rushing the passer to use his strength. He puts himself in a more compromised position here because he's a little bit wild. He doesn't trust the fact that he has a power game quite yet, and this puts him into a position to where he gets snatched and trapped to the ground, which is what happens against his Iowa State tackle. And we also see that here against Weber State. Now, again, he tries to attack the half man, tries to get upfield. It looks like it's kind of hard because it stops. It looks like he starts as a 4-eye technique, tries to work his way upfield, tries to unlock power by lowering his pad level and trying to drive through this tackle. But instead, what happens is the tackle sees that he drops his head, doesn't have his eyes up, and that he probably isn't going to be taken advantage of if the tackle steps back and just pulls really violently and rough on his pads to force that momentum forward into the ground, as you'll see right here. This one isn't as much of a snatch and trap, but you can see how he just assists that momentum by pulling that outside shoulder downward. And look, Elerson Smith has no control right here. And then he just falls on top of him at the end of the rep. And there's a good amount of this throughout his 2019 tape, but as I've said, I do believe it's something that he can work on. It's something that he can build just a little bit more strength, and I think if he's able to unlock that strength as a pass rusher, let's just say as a pass rusher, if he's able to develop more strength to his game to combine with the finesse and the athletic ability that he already possesses, this could be a really, really dangerous pass rushing specialist. But if he's able to anchor down and play the run, and he's able to handle maybe even double teams or just confidently handle tight ends and then tackles every now and again, he's going to earn more snaps early on. And that's how you're going to get onto the field in this Patrick Graham defense. You need to be able to not be a liability as a run defender. You need to be able to be that contain, that force defender. You're going to need to be able to set an edge. And it's something that Elerson Smith has to work on. But there's a ton of upside and a ton of potential here for Elerson Smith. And I know this is a negative type of video, but that does not mean that I am concerned or negative about Elerson Smith. This is just things that he has to work on. So thank you so much for listening to this YouTube video, watching this YouTube video. Please head on over to our podcast, wherever you get podcasts. That's Big Blue Banter. And then please subscribe, comment, like this video, and also head on over to our Instagram page, NY Big Blue Banter. Take care, everybody.